So, the big discussion, VAT on taxi fares, tax. We're so delighted that so many of you turned up. We were worried about apathy, and part of the discussion is so that we keep the momentum going and we speak as a body when we answer the consultation. So I'm going to introduce you to our two experts with different fields, different views, different experiences. But what I wanted to explain today is we're not going to look at how we got to that consultation. We all know that, and we do have someone speaking afterwards about a case or cases. But we really want to talk about the how, why, what, when, wheres, etc. And we want to dispel myths, simplify, and take the fear out of it. We'll take questions along the way, and we'll take questions at the end, and then both Jonathan and Gary, who I'll introduce if you don't know them, will also be available afterwards for more personalised questions. So first of all, if I can go over, you've got the microphone, Jonathan. Just a few words about you, your background, and your interest.
So my name's Jonathan Main. I'm a VAT partner. Started life in customs and excise around 40 years ago. Left not long after. I have been interested in this sector, I suppose, since I saw, taking Rachel's point not to go into the history, but since I saw what is highly unusual, which is non-VAT cases, leading us to where we are today, which is faced with an HMRC consultation over the future of the way in which VAT should be paid in your industry. So I'm first and foremost a VAT geek by living, but I have spent a lot of time making sure, as far as I can, in comparison to everyone in the audience who lives and breathes this industry, I do at least understand enough to see where it's heading and what the issues might be. But handing over to Gary, who's got a lot more knowledge.
Hello, my name's Gary Jacobs. I'm going to stay as you my name's Gary Jacobs. I'm an accountant that's been servicing the industry for 30 years. He's the brains, I'm the brawn. Really, I've come to this because we deal with every aspect of a client from tax and accounting point of view. On the consultancy side, we've been looking at driver engagement, and we also obviously have to look for clients at what happens when new legislation, we'll talk about it later, non-legislation comes in. So we've been following this journey and the effects and what it means. The problems that we tend to have in the industry is that a piece of news comes out from a tribunal, or from maybe a lower tier court, or maybe from a group of people or somebody talking, and it creates, which is a good thing, people are interested, but it creates a buzz that everybody has a strong opinion on. And sometimes it's really hard to see the wood from the trees. So one of the jobs that I do is to help my clients see the wood from those trees. There's loads of stuff going on at the moment, and we've got this VAT consultation, which is really important. There's also a lot going on with platform legislation and the run out of other issues as well to do with driver engagement and mediation. So this is something where you've got super VAT specialists. I've got clients that we've been following this on, and we really just want to make sure, and we'll talk about it at the end, that everybody just understands what's going on. Because the one problem that we know we have as an industry is sometimes somebody decides the best way to do it, everybody goes along. What we want to create in this meeting is some activism for people to get involved themselves, and you will affect change by doing this. So we're open for questions. We've got two guys here who really know the subject from two very different sides of it, but we really need your involvement. That's really the end of this.
Thank you. So I'll kick off some questions and then we'll ask the audience if they want to ask you any more. So double question, who does this affect and what is it all about? I mean, there's 21 questions on 37 pages and we need to do a response by the 8th of August. So Jonathan, who does it affect and what's it all about?
First and foremost, the consultation, and the first couple of pages makes this clear. the government has put to one side any account business. Now, the more work I do in this industry, the more stress I discover is put on that word account. So we've got to be careful there to start with. But what the government and those who helped them write this consultation, the first thing to note is they think this consultation only relates to what I would call cash work. I suppose I've heard it called street work as well. I've heard a variety of different terms. But those non-accounts, so not an account with local government or with local schools or with corporate customers, but just that work which traditionally, I suppose, HMRC would view as where the operator is acting as agent, and it's the driver's responsibility to account for any tax, whether it be income tax or VAT. So that's what the consultation is focused on. What was the second question?
So, what's it all about? So, a good question. Is it really worth considering getting involved in a consultation, or the HMRC going to do what they want to do anyway?
The consultation, as Rachel mentioned, 21 questions. A bunch of those, I think the first third, are really just about you as the respondent. What the government's keen to get is an understanding of who's responding. And I think within that, one of the points that needs to be made is it's really important that they get responses from the breadth of the industry. Otherwise, there's a very real risk that their opinion will be unduly influenced by the loudest voices in the room. So the more independent operators that reply, the better, because they'll get a much more balanced view of what the industry looks like. Within the other 14 questions, there's consideration of 8 different potential solutions. So when you go into the consultation, you will see that the government gives airtime to different potential ways of dealing with this. You'll also see, if you read it through, that 7 of them, in my opinion anyway, crash and burn. And the one that we're left with, I believe, is a margin scheme. So it's really important today that we spend some time understanding how that might work within your business so that you can understand what the challenges might be, because that may well inform how you wish to respond to the consultation. And I suppose the final point within the way in which you respond, you don't have to answer 21 questions. You answer the questions that mean something to you, and you give them whatever information about your own business you feel comfortable giving to them. Because, of course, statements of the obvious that you are giving information to a government department, and you may wish to decide how much commercially sensitive information you share, and that's absolutely fine. But it's your chance to have a voice, and that's the most important part.
Thank you. Gary, there's lots of terms in the consultation which people may or may not be familiar with. Could you enlarge on that? And also, does it matter whether you're already VAT registered or not VAT registered? What is the difference in outcome, and who should be interested? VAT registered, non-VAT registered, or both?
Okay. The consultation, as it stands at the moment, and I think this is what we've got to remember, it's a consultation, it's not legislation. So when you read the document, and it's worth reading the document, that document was put together by, because even they're asking you to consult to give you your opinion, but somebody must have set the boundaries of what they've already said. So they've come out to the industry, and we know some of the people that have spoken to them, and I've been involved in talks to them as well. So that document that you will read says, we think you do this, we look at you as an industry, and we think that this is what you do and this is how you do it. This is the models that you use. I mean, they have a principal and an agent model included. This is the type of firms, this is the money they do, this is what we think we'll do to bring it to a successful conclusion. What do you think? So there's some terminologies that they use. I would take some of the numbers with a pinch of salt. And I also would say then again, sometimes there's a fight not worth having, because even if their numbers don't equate, they quote some figures about what a particular model would look like.
176 billion.
Yeah. So it's, which is fine, but sometimes you've got to keep your eye on what you're fighting. So let them quote numbers. The idea is for you to read that, and they're telling you what they understand. It's up to us to know what we understand. So some of the terminologies that they use, they want to have an idea about what's out there at the moment. Well, the HMRC in effect, so they already know. But what they're looking at who is an agent and who is principal. Two very, very straightforward and simple things you'd think. And just to digress for 1 second, we had this discussion. When they talk about account work, can anybody in the room, it's a trick question, tell me what the definition is of account work? Anybody think that? I'm not going to ask you, don't worry. Does anybody know what account work means? Can I give you a clue? Yeah, I don't, because it's undefined in law. That's the truth. So there are two, and so I don't mean to catch you, but that's the point, is that everybody that I speak to says, oh no, what about Gary? We're looking at the agents and principal. They don't look at cash work, they look at account work. And I go, fine. The only thing is there are currently, I think at the moment in tax appeal, HMRC are testing what they think of account work. Now, most of us know that we consider account work, account work as something that is billed on a regular, normally monthly basis, that you would then bill and add VAT, because it sits that side of the process. It's the company billing plus VAT, giving an account work, and it's not about whether the drivers are engaged individually, it's the work that's coming into the company. Yeah.
Is there a VAT?
Exactly, but to some people, account work just means the regularity of work. I've had clients that we've been speaking to that say, well, account work is everything I take through a credit or debit card. But you've also got drivers taking credit and debit card through in the car, and then you've got operators that are giving some credit debit card in the car. Then you've got people that run dispersible financial systems, all the companies, all companies supply, we all know where the money runs through. Well, some of that's cash work. There's no cash, but it's digital cash. So they're talking about account work. We're still undefined in law. I'm sure you guys know what account work is, because it's how you make a living, and I know what it is when I'm trying to put it forward. It still is as of yet undefined. So let's look at the agent, agency principal. Principal is a direct line that charges and gets VAT. A chauffeur company would be principal in the way that they do it. They charge money with VAT back. If the driver's money goes either from the driver or straight to the driver, and the company earns its money through commission, that's an agent. Now, these are broadly defined principles where there is an aspect of legal precedent, there's an aspect of, and by the way, anybody that's heard me speak before know that I deal in worker engagement as well. So when we're talking about agents of principle, we're also talking about whether or not a firm, they're not mutually exclusive. You can have both within one firm, or you can run a different way. And also, if it's not defined in a court. So I don't want to confuse everybody, but this is why we've come to this stage where the government is looking at us to tell them what we think they are. It doesn't matter whether you are VAT registered or not VAT registered. It doesn't matter whether you're a driver, an operator, an independent operator. Do I have to read the whole list out? It's relevant to you, because they're talking about the changing the face of how, specifically VAT, but also we're on a journey of tax simplification. The National Audit Office knows that the concept of tax simplification was done years ago. We've been through conditionality together. We've now got platform legislation, which I'm speaking about later on this afternoon. I'll get a plug in there, thank you. We talk about platform legislation as well. All of this is then trying to simplify the system. We, as an industry, have just got to make sure that we're on the right side when the line's drawn.
Thank you, Gary. So my next question was going to be about how it affects operators, and I think this would be a good chance for operators to ask their questions because they know what they want to ask about how they're going to be affected. So has anybody got a question to kick us off? Just wait for the microphone, just so we can all hear you.
Good afternoon, Blue Line Harrogate. We're a taxi operator that utilises shareholder drivers who are all self-employed. We do have account work for which we're not that registered. We bill the client and we pay the driver the full amount. So I presume we would be an agent, what you were saying on that? We're just a collection agency for the driver, in effect.
Okay, you're the perfect example because what you have is a model. I don't know if it's been tested, no one knows this, certainly in this form, but what you have is a model you believe to work and is well within compliance. But I don't know at this point in stage whether you come inside or outside that because the concept of the concept of what agency means in our industries is ill-defined in the courts. The concept of where VAT attached is ill-defined in the courts. One of the problems that I had when we first learnt about the Sefton case and everybody started ringing my phone off the hook was that people were asking me where they sit with this. And my answer as an accountant is, and if you phone up the HMRC, they will tell you they take each case individually. This is not, at the moment, national legislation. And I think you've hit on the point where I'm sure if we went round to everybody in this room, they would, there's a few clients out there, they would turn around and say, I MA this, and I do this, and on this does this, which is great. And I'm a big fan of setting a model. You set your model and you defend it to the hilt. But now go to the HMRC and ask them if your model is legitimate. Right? Now go to your regulatory body and ask them if your model is. I mean, can I just, once again, try my best not to diversify. I was acting for a lot of people when the licensing authority in London, I've heard of it, and there's Neil's in London as well. Deals with this, I think, fantastically. Oh, there we are, Neil, who's our guy that I work with on the license issues. And TfL were asking my clients what model they were using, subject to the results of TfL versus etc. Based on the thing. And I answered them we asked them what models have I got a choice of? I can tell you what model, can you give us a choice of 5? And they went, no, just tell us what model you are. Okay, what's my baseline? I'm an accountant, I need a baseline, a legalistic baseline. Can't tell you. So we ended up giving them a paragraph and writing it out, and they just accepted it. So you've got regulatory bodies, and to be fair, I'm not having a go at them. They were asked to, from a regulatory standpoint, and I know we'll be talking about alternative, but we were asked from a regulatory standpoint to make sure that people were working to a certain way, but did not have the ability to say this is definitely right or wrong, black or white. And that's the whole point when we want people to be heard. You've done the greatest service because that's the whole point.
Thank you. Did I see another hand up? Yes, the gentleman, full raised back. And if you want a particular expert to... Can
I ask one of each very briefly?
Of course you can.
Thank you. Andrew Westcott from Visa. I think, Jonathan, I agree, you've pointed out that the government's leaning towards the margin scheme. Sort of don't even have to read between the lines there necessarily. But there is a margin scheme that's being applied in the industry at the moment by some operators. Could you just sort of explain the difference between those potentially and how they might apply, if that's okay? And then, Gary, I was just interested in your point about the numbers, the assumptions in the consultation. They're high, regardless of, in terms of the cost of the exchequer, regardless of which option is sort of comes out in the end. Is there not a risk that if we don't challenge those numbers with our own, when whether it's our own, our own commercial numbers or whatever it is, as a wider industry, that the cost of the exchequer is so high that we end up in the worst case scenario, which is 20% being applied on everything.
Jonathan first then.
Yeah, sure. So, thanks, Andrew, for the question. So what you're referring to, quick plug for the wonderful PHTM digital magazine, not least because I've written 4 articles in there in the last 4 or 5 months, plotting this journey that we've got to today, one of which was about the Bolt case, the ride hailer that I'm sure everybody knows, had a decision of the VAT tribunal released in December, in which it successfully defended its position that it should be able to apply what's called the tour operator's margin scheme to its income and its means of calculating VAT. So to unpack that for a second, because Andrew, right, in my view, that there is really only one show in town at the moment as far as the government's concerned. And I think the thread starts to make sense as we go along. Tour operator's margin scheme, clues in the title, it's intended for tour operators. So big, bulk tour, likes of TUI, as an obvious example. Package together a flight, a hotel, perhaps some excursions, perhaps meals or whatever else might be in the package, and they charge the customer an amount of money. So you want to go to Malaga for a week, you're going to pay £3 grand. You don't, as a customer, know or care how much of that is the flight, how much is the hotel, how much is the all-inclusive bar for the week. In case probably most of the £3 grand. But you just want to know that it's £3 grand and that's a good price compared to what you might pay others. That is a mess in that situation. And TOMS, to use the acronym, a scheme that was introduced probably over 40 years ago, was intended to simplify things. So what the tour operator does is look at the constituent parts that form the package and do a simple profit, gross profit calculation, look at the margin and take the VAT out of the margin. And if you're taking VAT out of the gross margin rather than 20%, you take a sixth, it's 20 or 120. And that's your VAT. Bolt stretched what TOMS was intended to cover. HMRC would say to breaking point, which is why they took Bolt to court. Bolt, at least so far, and I stress so far, has succeeded in defending its position, but that's just at the first tier tribunal. There's now the upper tribunal, the Court of Appeal, it goes to the Supreme Court. That's the journey of any litigation. Now, post Bolt's decision in December, up pops a consultation in which a margin scheme is put forward, which HMRC are at pains to say, please don't misunderstand us. That's not the tour operator's margin scheme. It's a private hire agency specific bespoke margin scheme. It's a little bit like it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, apparently it doesn't quack. It's very much the same. I'm starting to grasp at straws, but we were talking about this earlier. Is there a theme emerging of HMRC want to preserve the status quo? Because does a margin scheme in their eyes preserve the status quo, since at the moment they might think you pay VAT on your driver commission? Does the driver commission, if you work it the other way, so rather than you charge the driver a commission, you end up profit of what the driver charges you and you charge the passenger, they might think that's the same number. And so what they're trying to do is preserve the status quo. What they're also trying to do, I think, perhaps,
So hypothetical.
very hypothetical, is use things like what's happening in the platform economy, because they're already collecting data, and this is more of the same sort of data.
I think the concern with that is we're talking about large companies, and a lot of operators are small micro. We were asked about the numbers. Do we need to get into the numbers and worry about the numbers that they're quoting?
Well, yeah. I mean, so basically, just to back up, there are 8 different outcomes the consultation talks about. And what I love is quite what you said. They've gone, well, it's not Tom's, so we're introducing this fantastic new thing called POMS. And what they're trying to say is that, I mean, sorry, can we just get it? I'm what's clever here? Tom's scheme, marginal schemes. What it's coming in, what it's going out, your VAT is on the bit between that. That's a marginal scheme. So what this, and the beauty of marginal schemes is that it's a kind of a catch-all. So it's not a terrible place to be. I've seen a few faces as we've been talking that thought they were going to come in the room and just talk about VAT on fares, and suddenly found that they're in a much wider world. Well, this world was created by the HMRC, who have opened up this consultation and asked us, and by the way, I can't see anything wrong with sharing. I've got to tell you, from my point of view, I actually read the consultation. I think it actually represented, there's a few things missing, but I think it did represent the opinions and advice of the status quo of where we are now. And we've got some representative associations, both with Dave Lloyd, Steve Wright, and the PHTA. These guys have a great understanding of the breadth of this, and I think it kind of it does catch the zeitgeist of all of the conversations that we are having. I'm sorry to go off tap, but the point is, what's happened is they've gone, this is what we think that you told us, this is what we want you to comment about it, this is kind of think where we're going. So it's quite a simplistic journey.
And to quote from an article I read this morning that Mark's put out, Mark Bursa, he acknowledges that they do seem slightly sympathetic to the issues that we're facing.
The first thing that we spoke about when they said VAT on fares was simply this: the operator becomes a debt collector for the government. The driver is going to get less work because fares go up, or it doesn't make the same money because fares go up. And the travelling public, a significant amount of which are vulnerable, because it's about getting people home off the street. It's about, because our industry, the regulation in our industry is supposed to be about welfare, looking after the passenger. That's what we always talk about. That's what
Safeguarding.
Yeah, the concept of safeguarding is material to what we do. So when we looked at that, we said, well, hold on a second, you're just going to make the fares 20% more, and nobody else is, because if that fares comes out, potentially it won't be the operators, the drivers that are losing out, it'll be the traffic public. And to be fair, on the which is one view, by the way, I'm not but it was mentioned within the first few lines. They did say about vulnerable people. So they're listening, they've done what they think, but it's up to us to make sure we do it. And let me just address the numbers. Yes, the numbers will address the view that the government take of the long-term legislative growth on that. However, like I always say, you have to, I do recognise the need to do that, but you have to pick your fight. Jonathan and I know very well, because this isn't our first rodeo, when a consultation comes through, and this is a tax consultation, not as there's very experienced people in this industry that are used to our industry regulatory consultation. This consultation, they kind of have in mind what they want to do. They're waiting to see if there's going to be an overwhelming pushback to say, absolutely, this is terrible. And we will have a voice to do that. So, and that's the point we're making, is that that's all we've got to do. So, yes, I'm not disagreeing, the numbers have to be done, but if you're going to fight somebody, you've got to fight them one at a time.
Thanks, Gary. So before I answer some wrap-up questions about what we need to do, I'd like to know from the audience, and particularly any small to medium-sized operators that are maybe not VAT registered or concerned about that. Got a microphone?
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
First of all, I'm a typical hackney carriage driver, work from rank to rank, and only pick the customer from the rank and come back to the rank. Is that VAT applied to me? through the system.
Who's got the microphone?
I'm happy to take it. Please correct me if I'm wrong. As a Hackney carriage license holder, you are not affected by this change. I think you're correct in saying.
Yeah. But the point about it is, if you're going to walk out on fares, how do you deal with metering? There's more questions. To be honest, there's more questions than answers. One of the reasons why we've been left alone to a certain extent is the fact that we have both Hackney and private, even some hybrid companies as we go around the country. When metering comes in, and you put the VAT on the meter price or off the meter price. So once again, we probably, at the moment, no, but we probably don't have an easy answer, and that's the point. That's why we put together the consultation.
And I think perhaps to elaborate a little bit from a VAT perspective on what I just said, fares are already subject to VAT. I mean, there's nothing new in that. It's just that most drivers don't exceed the VAT registration threshold, which now from the 1st of April is £90,000 a year. So take the current position with drivers who are self-employed and generating income in their own right, or a Hackney licensed driver. Your fares are the money you earn is subject to VAT. It's just that unless you get over the VAT registration threshold of 90,000, you aren't required to register for VAT. And of course, given it's a cash business, why on earth would you? Because it's up the VAT registration threshold is also a cliff edge. As soon as you go over 90,000, all of your income becomes subject to VAT. So effectively, between 90,000 and around 105, that 15 grand you earn is all just bumps for HMRC. You don't get to keep a penny of it. It's horrendous the way in which the VAT registration threshold works. It should be graduating.
And you put my mind in peace.
Thank you. Anybody else before we wrap up with some final questions? I know I did have one before the event asked. Could I get the microphone to Mark? No, second row back. Mark Mercer.
I have a couple of points, I think, just from having spent a long time reading the consultation and writing a fairly hefty piece on it in Professional Driver this month. You said that there were 8 models and 7 of them crash and burn. I'm not sure there are 2 that don't crash and burn.
Okay.
Their argument for not charging VAT on private hire fares basically is that the buses are greener, cleaner, and somehow better for the environment. Well, I think that's a very moot argument if we're arguing that everyone's going electric, if this industry has extremely clean vehicles. We're actually cleaner than the bus. Most buses aren't hybrid or electric. A lot of diesel buses still running around in the country and will be for a long time. A bus has a 20, 25, 30-year life, whereas a private hire vehicle maybe has 7 years of electric. Ones are coming in thick and fast now. So I think the argument that the only reason we have to pay VAT is because we're not as green as a bus is a very moot point, and that it's an argument we can make and we should make as an alternative to what they're obviously clearly trying to steer us down the route of, which is the POMS scheme, if you like. I think that's going to stick now. So yeah, I don't think that we should be writing off the fact that there's still a chance to get rid of VAT altogether. I know that the agency work, the sort of account work is slightly different, but that again is an accountancy issue, isn't it? On a monthly invoice, it comes to a different place to anything that is charged in the car. Yeah, what do you think of that?
I think there are 2 points I'd like to make. I think absolutely, I get everything you say about the relative merits of one form of transportation over another. I think, but it's really tedious. My take of the consultation is because in the first part of it, they introduced and then sort of politely dismissed 0 rating on one basis, on a green basis, I think. And then you go later into the consultation and find that they, although this should never be the reason for not doing something, it always is with HMRC. How much money is it going to cost me? The money came I hear what you're saying absolutely, and I think that goes to a point I think that Gary made earlier, that a consultation, once it gets to this stage, typically the government has decided which horse it's backing, and I think that they have. I think that's the way the consultation works. This is the opportunity, if there is a voice that's going to shout from the rooftops about it, no, sorry, either say a reduced rate at 5% or a zero rate. There are lots of things in the UK which have a 5% VAT rate, that's quite common these days. Then shout. I'm just a bit of a cynic, I think, probably at fault for that. And what was your second point?
The second point is really about the money that they are talking about.
Yes.
The money basically is it's not the it's couched in the language that HMRC is losing 150 billion.
Yes.
If this is, it's not losing that. It's not getting that money at the moment.
Correct.
No one was paying that VAT because everyone's an agency monopolies and jobs. So they're not actually losing anything. It's money they might otherwise get if they charge 20% VAT. So at that point.
Thank you. We have to move on, so if you can answer that, and then I've just got a couple of questions to
Okay.
wrap up. But what we
Right.
will say is these guys are going to be available from 2 o'clock at stand 50 to answer more questions,
So-
more personal questions.
Just quickly, the government says in the consultation that they do 750 million from not agency but from firms that are that chargeable. So they're going to deal later. I think the big deal here as well is that we still have a voice. Right? It can still actually be defeated. We've done this to ourselves. We have done this to ourselves because we've made a huge noise about something where there have been board opinions and the government's gone, okay, well, let's do a consultation. So we have to all put on our big boy pants and make sure that our voice is heard. So there are still, and you have a very knowledgeable opinion of somebody that understands VAT. They have come up with these 8 things. I mean, I think one of the things that maybe is an industry point and not a tax point is that we keep saying to them as an industry that we are public transport. So can we please be treated like public transport? And then they turn around to us and say, well, you're a commercial entity. Well, when people need to be taken off the street at 1 o'clock in the morning, they don't really care if it's a public or private hire car. We are public transport taking. We transport as an industry vulnerable people, non-emergency patient transport. So, but that's, and it's not the green. I think they gave the green argument. I think it's still rejected private hire as a proper piece of public transport. But guess what? That's also another fight. I think the most important thing that I want everyone to take away, though, is that irrespective, our opinions on this stage may be informed but don't matter. The government wants to hear from you, and if you find the system of taking part in the consultation overwhelming, find someone or pay someone with respect to help you do it, because while you're waiting for simple answer, the environment, the commercial and financial environment of your business will change around you. You've got the QR codes around you so that you can read it. If you find it overwhelming to look at, get some help. We've got some fantastic associations that I always push everybody to join that will help you with it. You've got people like him and me. I say yes, I hand over some money, but we help you with it. Just get it done, and this voice can actually change. This is about activism. It's about actually doing something. Because if we then overwhelm the government with what we believe is the right thing to do, they will listen.
Thank you. So that's a great motivational speech. We all need to fill in the consultation and get some help to do it. Jonathan, a few final words before we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. I've said this a number of times in the articles I've written in PHTM, and so I'll repeat it again. It goes back to the question you asked earlier about the model you've got today. That's right. And to endorse what Gary said, as I said in the last article I wrote, steady as she goes. Nothing is changing today. When you read the consultation, you will see that HMRC, or the government, I suppose I should say, have confirm that nothing will change until after the outcome of the Sefton case, which Labour is going to be talking very knowledgeably about the second rickety times this week. And so if it works for you now, it's giving you an answer which is profitable for your business. There is no need to change unless you think you're copying it on.
So don't be frightened.
One last point.
Carry on.
You've got to the 8th of August to respond to consultation. Very important. 16 weeks from when it was launched. So 8th of August.
Don't be frightened. Get some help. Maybe review your business. It's a good time to do it. And get it in by the 8th of August. So, thank you guys. That's a wrap.